I remember 10 years ago saying, everything that I do is sitting in front of a desk, typing. How is that going to actually regenerate the land? And, what I need to do is I need to be doing it with my own hands. At the end of the day, what we have is our own two hands and our community that surrounds us. I value so much more the trees that I've planted here than all of the talks that I gave, all of the work that I did in my previous life. I'm now in a new life, and I love every minute of it. My name is Jessica Leshevsky. I'm North American, but I'm here in Barichara, Colombia, working to regenerate land here in a nature reserve named Origen del Agua, the origin of water. This land has become very special to me. Origen del Agua is a very strategic location to regenerate because the whole zone, El Caucho, rural zone, is very rich in groundwater. And so the groundwater needs to be protected by forest in order for the water to absorb and replenish that groundwater into the earth. The other reason why Origen del Agua was chosen and why it has that name is because it's at the very top of the ridge. And this point at the very top of the ridge where there is groundwater, it will feed and nurture the whole ecosystem below it. Not just the ecosystem, but it'll feed the groundwater source. Everything below this, which is basically everything in this region, will be affected by the forest that is cultivated. One of the most important things that we do here is we help the kids of this region. Specifically, we work with kids from rural schools. And we help these kids fall in love with and experience their own territory. In a classroom, kids learn about, maybe they learn about weather, they learn about math, they learn about reading, they learn about maybe some basic science of water, maybe some basic biology, but they don't learn about their own territory in the classroom. A lot of kids don't even know that we live in a tropical dry forest, which is one of the most endangered ecosystems in the world. All of us, we depend on biodiversity for survival. And we become so enmeshed in things that are abstract from our basic needs and our basic sense of being human, which is we are part of this ecosystem. We're not separate from it. And that's what the kids come here to learn. Where does their water come from? In this water-scarce region of Barichara, where the people talk about the water problems in Barichara every single year. There's a lot of conversations that happen about it. But people aren't taught in schools, where does their water come from? Where does the water that sustains life come from? And it comes from the water cycle. It comes from forests. How does rain form? Rain forms, it's a very complex system But the more forest there is, the more rain there is. The more forest there is, the more the soil is preserved and the more we can grow food. The more forest there is, the more the water absorbs into the soil and stays in this territory rather than being lost to the ocean from the territory. And so we're living in a place where desertification, it's a risk. It's been shown in many other places where the more degraded the land is and the more you clear the forests, there's a cycle that happens where more water is lost from the territory, and then there's not enough water to support the ecosystem that remains. And that ecosystem is lost even further, which is a cyclical process of desertification. They used to grow sugarcane here. It was a major crop. Now they can't grow sugarcane here because there's not good enough soil that retains the water for long enough for sugarcane to be a possible crop. Tropical dry forests are one of the places that supports human agriculture more than human food growing, more than other ecosystems because of the specific conditions that it has, and it's an endangered ecosystem. And so our food security, our water security depends on us having this balanced give and take with the ecosystem in which we live. The earth gives us so much, and we don't have habits in which we give back. And if we keep taking and taking and taking without giving back, that's non-sustainability. One of the things that I want to teach kids here, well, that I want them to learn here, I'm not really teaching. They're coming here and they're learning by being a part of this. But one of the things that I think kids are learning here is they're giving to their own ecosystem, and they're making that a habit every day. And they're also experiencing gratitude for the territory that they grow up in. We don't just plant trees. We plant soil. And we plant life. And so sometimes that's just about doing a little reshaping of the soil. Sometimes that's about bringing in some organic material, building a little rock wall to stop the erosion. Sometimes that's about protecting a tree that the birds planted. We're improving the life and the biodiversity. And that's one of the goals here in Origen del Agua, is to help biodiversity return to the land. So one of the biggest challenges that I faced is the connection of this project to the rest of the community. Like, physically, this project is part of a microcuenca. And this microcuenca, this little drainage that we want to protect as forest, this is the part at the top, but there are parts below as well. And the parts below are owned by other landowners, and they don't have the same vision. For example, part of the microcuencas at the top runs through Origen del Agua, and part runs through the neighbor's land, and they cut down half the trees in the microcuenca, more than half. and they cut down all of the undergrowth and half of the trees, and it broke my heart. For the week afterward, I had such a hard time planting because I thought, here I am trying to regenerate this, and here they are next door cutting down something that took 100 years to grow. And so some of these disconnections in the community really do break my heart. And that's also part of the reason why I work with kids, because in a future, what I see is that these kids will be teaching the kids of future generations here in this land, in this forest that they helped create. So when I see Oro Hindalagua in the future, I see a mature forest. I see a mature forest with ceibas, with anacos, with with caracolis growing, providing the shelter for all of the different strata species below. And I see the kids that worked with me planting these trees coming back and knowing that they planted that, knowing that they created that forest. And then they will be teaching the kids of the next generation about the tropical dry forest and here in this forest on how to regenerate. When I first started working on this land, I knew that technically it was possible to regenerate. I knew that others had done it. I knew some of the techniques. I had practiced some of the techniques. But I had never actually worked on a land so degraded before. And so when I first started, there was a very large part of me that was doubting it. Like, whoa, we'll try this. We'll see if something survives. I mean, it's supposed to work, but there's rock and clay, and there's these little plants that are in the sun. And there's a long dry season. I hope one thing survives out of all of the things that I try. But I was really surprised. I was incredibly surprised when I came back after the dry season and so much of what I had done had worked. I was still learning, probably about 50% had worked at the first thing. But that 50% was like magic. Wow, these techniques that I've read in books, that I've done little like miniature practices here and there, they actually work. I didn't believe it until I actually saw it with my own eyes. Not only did it work, but I was actually doing what I dreamed about doing for so long, which was, working with my hands and just with my two hands, making life happen. I mean, life grew out of that. And then I kept at it. I learned more. Things started to work better and better and better. I incorporated more techniques, incorporating my learnings, my failures into my practice. It rose up to 80% survival. And then after that, now I think it's over 90% in this last year. 90% of the plants that we planted survived the dry season. And not only that, but I'm seeing birds come and perch on the trees that I planted. I'm seeing just this incredible diversity of insects Like there's life all around. I'm seeing a new species of bee every few months. And it's like magic. It's really like magic. And I feel like my fingertips are like magic just from listening to the earth and touching the earth in the right way. It wants to grow back. It looks hard. It looks hard. But it's one of the most satisfying experiences ever to touch a land so degraded. And I want that challenge now. I'm like, I look for the places that are the hardest. And I said, I think now I have the self-confidence. I think we can make life grow here. And we do. And it's incredible. It's incredible to watch. Every single time I come here, I look at all the insects and all the plants and all the life in the places where my hands touched. And it's the most beautiful feeling in the world.